Hi everyone, it's Mindy from My Creative Scoop and I'm back with another video tutorial for scrapbookpal.com. Today I'm using this adorable Lawn Fawn Stamp Set called Sweetest Flavor, and we're going to be creating this awesome background with our Distress Oxide Inks and doing some Copic Coloring. So let's get started. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is create our Distress Oxide background. So I'm going to be using Shaded Lilac, Spun Sugar, Picked Raspberry, and Cracked Pistachio. We're going to start with the Spun Sugar. And I'm just going to get it nice and inked up. And we're just going to pick little spots here and there to add some color. So a lot of this is going to be covered up with the other colors, but it's nice to have the light color down first, so that way you can leave some light areas and blend it into the next color. So you can kind of pick and choose which direction you want to go, if you want to go lighter or darker. Okay, let's add actually a little bit more down here. Okay, so now we'll go ahead and add some of the Shaded Lilac. And I'm going to take my blender brush and again, ink it up really good. I'm not going to press this hard just because I want to have a little bit more of a lighter tone, and we can always add more ink later if we're not happy with it. So I'm not going to push as hard as I did with that Spun Sugar, and I'm just going to lightly go over the white areas and then even lighter, very softly go into some of the pink areas, so that way it can be a little bit lighter. You have a little bit more control that way. And we'll add some more here. Add a little bit more into the pink so it fades a little bit better. And then we'll go ahead and add some of the Cracked Pistachio. So again, I'm gonna add this very lightly since it is a little bit darker than the two previous colors if you press really hard. So I'm just very lightly going across to blend in to the other colors. And we'll add some more green over here. And some up here in the middle of the pink and the purple. And then I'm just going to kind of graze it over just a little, starting in the green area and then coming over here, just so you can have little bits and pieces of the green without having so much of it down. Okay, so now I'm going to go back with my Spun Sugar. And we're really going to blend these colors in a little bit. So I'm going to start where I've already laid down some of that pink, but I'm not pushing down. I'm just setting the brush on the paper and then going in this circular motion, just to blend through all the colors so there's a nice transition between all three colors. And let's go ahead and add a little bit more of the shaded lilac now. So again, very lightly. I'm not going to be pushing or pressing on my brush very hard. I'm just grazing it over the paper right where I have laid down the purple before. Kind of coming up a little bit because I like my edges to be a little bit darker. And we'll add a little bit more at the edge here and moving up into the other colors. All right, I think that looks good. Now I want to take that picked raspberry and I just want to darken the edges right around the paper in the pink areas. So I'm just going to take my brush, add a little bit of the picked raspberry, and I'm gonna go off of the paper a little bit and just barely tap it. And do the same thing right over here. And in this corner here. And it adds just a little bit. I think it gives it a nice finish. All right, so now we are ready to stamp our little ice creams all over the paper. Okay, so we're not gonna use the spun sugar to do the stamping because it's just too light. So we're just gonna use the picked raspberry, cracked pistachio, and shaded lilac. I'm gonna get my stamp nice and inked up. And then I'm going to just stamp a few, and you wanna go in different directions. And you wanna make sure you go off the paper sometimes, so that way it looks like it's continuing. It almost looks like you've made your own pattern paper. Put one upside down. We'll do another one here. And just a little bit up there. Okay, so then we're gonna wipe our stamp off and switch colors. Go ahead and go with the cracked pistachio. Ink up your stamp. And let's go ahead and just do a little piece right over here. Okay, so again, wipe off the stamp and let's get out that shaded lilac. Ink it up real good. All right, so we still have some space. So I want to fill that in, and we're going to go ahead and use that cute little heart. Okay, so I like to use a water bottle and just spray my fingers and then just do some little flicks on there, so that way it's not so much on the paper. That way it keeps a lot of it and you just get a few droplets here and there. And then we'll take a paper towel And I don't really want it to drip. I just want to have the little droplets on there, so I don't want to move my paper, so I just quickly put my paper towel over it so that way I have just the little droplets. Okay, so I think that looks good. I'm happy with that. Let's go ahead and start coloring our ice cream. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and color these cute little Lawn Fawn ice creams using our Copic markers. We're gonna start with this one over here. We don't need to color all of the cones since we're not gonna be using all of them. I'm gonna be starting with my E43, and we're gonna create a shadow right along this side of the ice cream cone and also underneath the ice cream. So that way it looks like it's coming over the cone a little bit. And we're gonna take the E42, come out just a little bit more. And then we're gonna do the same thing with E41. Get a nice blend right along the edge before you just fill it all in. So sometimes it's a little blotchy when you first add that first layer. So I always recommend going back if it's a larger area. If it's a really, really tiny area, you don't need to go back and add another coat of it all because it's so small. It kind of saturates the paper anyways, and you don't want to go outside the lines. But if you can't get a nice blend, I always recommend going back and adding another layer of ink in the exact same order and in the exact same places, so that way you really get those colors moving on the paper and they will blend together. So we're going to take the E42, do the same thing, come out just a little bit more, and then again with the E41. Alright, so we're going to color this ice cream green. I'm going to be using YG45 and YG41. I'm going to color this one a little bit different than I normally color. I usually color from dark to light, but since I'm only using the two colors, this is how I do it sometimes. So, new technique. So I'm going to take my YG41 and I'm just going to fill it all in. So notice I'm not going back and forth, back and forth. I'm just doing one stroke over just to get some color laid down. Then I'm going to take my YG45. We want to keep the shadow in the same area. So on this side of the cone we added it. So on this side of the ice cream we want to continue that shadow. But we also want to go underneath the bottom of the little bumps of the ice cream so it looks like it's kind of going over and having that kind of where it's leaning over the cone. So I'm going to come out just a little bit right along the bottom. So just think of it as tracing the outline. And then we're going to come up a little higher, and then it's going to taper off again. Now I'm going to go back a little bit just to make this line a little bit thicker so that way you can really see that shadow on that side of the ice cream. Then we're going to take the YG41 again, and we're going to do these little baby flicks just so that we're dragging and pulling that YG45 out so it creates that blend between the two colors. So after you've done all your little flicking, then we're going to go ahead and do one large flick so that way it blends out even farther and it will blend into the color that's already laid down. So we're going to flick a little harder. So that way you're erasing that line, but you still have that dark to light contrast. And after you do that, if you could still see it a lot, you can go ahead and just do one swipe over. So that way you lay down that second layer and it will blend it and soften up those edges so you don't have that harsh line in between the colors. So now let's go ahead and color this ice cream over here. We're going to be using BV02, BV00, and BV000. I'm going to start with my BV02, and we're just going to, again, just trace the outline of the bottom part of the ice cream. And it's going to be a little thicker on this side, and we're going to move up, and then as you come towards the top, it's going to get thinner and taper off. And then we're going to take the BV00, Do the same thing. We're just going to come right along the side of that BV02. Get a nice blend between the two colors. Since we are missing a color, you might have to go over it a couple of times just to really drag it out to get rid of that harsh line between the two colors. And then we're going to take the BV000 and do the same thing. We're going to flick, blending out the previous color a little bit more. And once we have a nice transition between the two colors, three colors, we'll go ahead and do one swipe over, filling it all in. We have that dark to light contrast. And we're going to do the same thing with the pink. I'm going to be using RV34, RV32, and R20. We're going to start with our RV34. And again, go right along the outline of the image. And a little thicker on this side. And we're going to go up a little higher. Then we're going to take the RV32, come out a little bit more. And then we're going to take the R20. We're going to go into some of that RV32. And these colors are a little bit different, but I found that R20 works really, really well with a next shade lighter to the R32. So we're going to work our color out, and then we'll do one swipe over, filling it all in. All right, so now let's go ahead and die cut our ice creams. Okay, so now I'm going to take a white gel pen and we're going to add some highlights to the ice cream. So I'm going to come down the one side, the lighter side, and then I'm going to come down and make, a smaller line. Then we're going to just come a little bit just on these sides over here. And so I add a little curve and then a dot, and then we'll add a smaller little curve and then another dot, just so it has some nice highlight and it really looks like it's shiny. I'm going to do the same thing over here. And the same thing for this guy over here. And then we're going to set those aside for just a minute. We're going to come back to our background that we created. And you're going to go over the whole paper and create dots. We want to add some sparkle, and just ignore the images that we put on there. Just add a little extra to the paper. So after you've added all the dots everywhere, I like to go back and I'm going to add a little bit of a bigger dot and kind of go at a little bit of an angle, so that way it kind of looks like little sprinkles. So you're going to do that all over your image as well. You don't have to do as many of them this time, but that way it gives it a little something else. All right, that's good. Okay, so then we're going to go ahead and we're going to cut up our little ice creams. So the green one is fine, it's going to stay that way, but we're going to cut out the purple one and the pink one, just the cone, or I'm sorry, just the ice cream scoop. So we want to keep that white border so that way it matches this one up here. So I'm going to kind of come down a little bit and then trace into the background. So that way it kind of finishes off, but you won't be able to see, because we're going to stack them on top of each other. So it's going to go just like that, right over the green part. So it looks like it's part of the image, but you still see that white border. We'll do the exact same thing over here. And now we are ready to start putting our card together. Okay, so I have my card base. It is 11 by 4 1/4, scored at 5 1/2. And I've taken my background that we made and added some foam tape to the back, so that way I get a little bit more dimension on my card. And this piece of cardstock is cut at 4 1/8 by 5 3/8, so we're going to be able to see just 1/8 of an inch border right around the background. So we'll go ahead and stick this on here, if I could get it straight. So we have that there, and then I've taken the piece of the die from the slider card, one that you pull out and then it comes out on both sides. This is the set, one of the pieces that slide out. So it's a great little piece that fits perfectly in the center of a regular card. So we're gonna go ahead and take some more foam tape and attach this to our card base. So I've added some more foam tape to the back of here, and we're going to place it in the center. All right, and then we're going to go ahead and attach our little ice cream. So the green one's going to go down first. We're going to get some foam dots to attach it, and I wanted the pink one to show the most because I like it. So you could put them in whatever order you want. So we're going to go ahead and attach them with some foam dots just like that. Okay, so we have everything attached to our card and we're ready for our sentiment. We have some nice dimension, so super cute. I love the way this card is turning out. So I'm going to be using the sentiment that comes with the ice cream stamp set. So we're going to have it say, "You're the sweetest." And then I've taken the Friends die and I've cut off the S, so that way it says, "You're the sweetest friend." And we're gonna attach the sentiment and the word die with some foam dots. All right, so here we go. We have our card all put together. It's so cute. I hope you enjoyed watching me make it. Thank you so much for watching and have a wonderful day.